I did everything I was told to do. I paid off my debts. I budgeted. I fully funded my emergency fund. I got engaged. I saved up for a wedding. I got married. I saved up for a house. I got a house. I started investing. I did everything that I was told to do, that I tell you all to do, to live a financially stable life. But no one tells you what it's like to go from broke to being debt-free, financially healthy, feeling like you never have to worry about money again, and then going back to worrying about when your next paycheck is going to be. Because the whiplash is jarring. But that's what an emergency for is, right? It's money saved, put into a high-yield savings account. Traditionally, it's at least 3 months. Now it's probably at least 6 months worth of expenses. Again, put in a high-yield savings account for emergencies only. It's like your life jacket, the one thing that you can always rely on when you are in trouble. But in this case, I'm not having to dip into my emergency fund because of a medical expense, or my car broke down, or there's a hole in my roof, which, knock on wood. It's because I haven't worked consistently all year. And when your work is directly tied to your popularity, to your relevancy, it doesn't just feel like a disappointment on a financial front, but personally and professionally, it's embarrassing. But if I've learned anything from your comments, so I appreciate y'all always trying to encourage me and uplift me, it's that I need to reframe this situation. The idea of never needing your emergency fund is a myth, right? I mean, hello, we're here right now. I used to think that once I got financially healthy, that my emergency fund was just like a very long distance away safety net, something that I would never have to touch, kind of like a trophy. I would look at it in a distance every once in a while, be proud of my accomplishments, and to be reminded that I am good, right? I am finally financially good no matter what. Then life happened. We bought a house that ended up being a disaster, that increased our housing budget by thousands of dollars a month. The market is making it hard to sell the house, tying up all of that money. And my industry has slowed so much to the point that people who are more popular than I am are seeking employment elsewhere. And mind you, this is the worst that I have seen it get in my industry. And it seems like also on another level is that everyone, whether they're in my industry or the tech industry or whatever, are mentally struggling with what they are doing right now. I feel like myself, as well as other people who I've talked to, are struggling professionally on various levels at the moment. And on top of that, every single day, things are getting pricier and pricier and pricier. But we are not looking at this as a failure, or at least I'm trying hard not to. In fact, if we really think about it, this is the best case scenario in a less than ideal situation. Because success actually isn't never touching your emergency fund, it's having an emergency fund when you need it. I have 7 months worth of expenses saved for this exact moment. I'm not going into credit card debt. I'm not worried about not being able to cover our necessities. I am fine through the year. Now, I'm hoping I don't have to use up my emergency fund. I'm hoping that this is just a few months worth of expenses that I need help covering before things start picking back up again. But I am okay using this system that I built for myself for this moment. Now, of course, this means the days of caviar girl dinners and last minute trips outside of the state are over, right? We're not doing that anymore. So if you're not seeing any caviar content, you know why. I am now gonna have to be more careful and more intentional with my spending, because I don't want to waste this emergency fund money on something silly, which, by the way, is something I admittedly haven't taken as seriously as I should have for a few months, maybe a year. But now we're back to 2018 Asia. An Asia that I thought I had left behind, if we're gonna be honest, but I'm glad that I still have her in my arsenal to bring back out for situations like this. I am not taking out a large lump sum out of my emergency fund. I'm wanting to take it month by month. I'm hoping that, I'm starting to get the money that I'm owed, that brands or work will just start coming back to me. So that's why I think month to month is probably the better way that I want to go attacking using my emergency fund, because I don't want to pull out too much and kind of just not need it and spend it on stuff that isn't meant to be used for. So for the next month, I am focusing on clarity, and being a Monarch member will help me do that for sure. Now, I didn't mean to tie a sponsored video to this post, but it is actually quite fitting and thankful. Thank you, Monarch. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. But with Monarch, I'm able to view all my accounts, my checking, my savings, my investing accounts, all in one place. I was able to live off my checking and move around some money from my sinking fund savings accounts in order to stay afloat for the past few months. But seeing all my accounts all in one place made it really easy to decide where I needed to pull money from in order to try to stay out of my emergency fund as long as possible. So thankfully, I had a lot of sinking funds that I had been saving for, and basically a lot of them, except for my sinking fund for my SEP of this year and my sinking fund for us moving at the beginning of next year, is completely wiped out. So RIP to my 40th birthday sinking fund. And now that I'm living off of my emergency fund, I'll get real-time transaction tracking and balance updates. And while I hope all of this will only last for the next few months, with custom reports, I can track spending trends and cash flow to help me decide either what I may need to pull out of my emergency fund next month, or when my cash flow is back at a sustainable level and I can stop taking out of my emergency fund and start replenishing it. So whether you're pushing through a hard financial time like myself, or maybe you just want to get your finances in order, or you're trying to figure out the best way to, budget with a partner, use Monarch's free 7-day trial. I did it. I know that this video is sponsored, but I actually use the 7-day trial and I pay for my own membership. So try it out, and when you love it, use my referral link in the description box to get 50% off your very first year. So with Monarch and kind of, clarity on how I am thinking of my emergency fund now. I know I was in tears earlier in the video, but now that I'm talking it out, it's again less of a disappointment and more of an empowering feeling, because if this situation happened to me 8 years ago, this would be a completely different video because I didn't have an emergency fund. So hopefully with some clarity, not only financially, but professionally as well, this little dip in my financial timeline will be short and sweet, please. I just have to remind myself that there are expenses that even the most financially savvy people cannot predict. Whether it's a pet emergency, which is what started this whole financial journey 8 years ago. Medical bills, surprise repairs, or family obligations. No one is immune to life's curveballs. But we just have to remember that the real test of financial health isn't never touching your emergency fund. It's how you rebuild afterward. Fortunately, saving is one of my favorite hobbies. If it wasn't for me overly saving on random financial goals, I probably would have had to dip into my emergency fund much sooner. So when the time comes, I'm going to be able to do what I did 5 years ago when I first started saving into my emergency fund. I will first need to set a financial goal. In this case, it's very clear whatever money I took out is what I'm going to have to put back in, and probably add a few $1,000 more. Build a sinking fund flowchart, which I love, and deposit money back into my emergency fund account every single month until it is fully funded. Personally, this is a huge wake-up call for me. I knew that this transition was coming for the past few years. I've talked a lot on this channel about it. I wish I had more time. I wish I had my ish figured out before this moment came. but now it's really time to dig in. And I'm reading a lot of books. I'm talking to a lot of people, not only my friends, but people in the industry who I admire. And hopefully I will get some clarity about what Asia 2.0, Asia almost 40, Asia hopefully not 100% content creator Asia, what that next chapter is going to be. You know, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of videos soon about trying to figure out what life is, because again, as I've mentioned in this video, I know it's just not me trying to figure out what the next move is. I know that there are people in industries totally different from the industry I'm in that are really struggling with what are we going to do now. I think the state of the world, honestly, is giving a lot of us a wake-up call, and we're realizing that we need to do something different. So I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. If you have any books you can recommend to me, or TED Talks or whatever, please let me know in the comments. You know, I did not expect to be back in this position again, but I know that the second time around will be easier. You know, I've been saying this over and over and over again in this video, is I used to think financial health meant never needing to touch your emergency fund ever. But now I'm seeing things differently, and it's because of your comments again. It's just switching that mindset. Dipping into my emergency fund, dipping into your emergency fund does not make you a failure. It does not mean that you're falling behind. It means that you planned ahead. I protected my future. I'm hoping that this video is an awakening for you to start protecting yours, because that is the real financial glow up.